Today, in our ethics lesson, we're diving into data privacy. In a world where simply downloading an app often means granting it access to all sorts of personal information, it's no surprise that protecting privacy is so important. Just think about the data we're regularly asked to share, like your current and future locations on a routing app, your home and work address, and even your shopping habits, social media posts, and telehealth appointments. All of this contributes to a detailed picture of you and your behaviors, which makes privacy protection essential. And while some protections exist, we've seen time and again how damaging data breaches can be. When we add geographic information to this personal data, we gain powerful insights not just into what people do, but where they do it. This kind of information is incredibly valuable and also raises ethical questions. Dr. Lynette Taylor highlights that as digital technologies expand, so does the power to monitor, categorize, and influence people's lives. But depending on tech companies to use their powers ethically often falls short as their priorities may not align with principles of data justice. This potential for misuse requires us to ask not only what we can do with data, but what we should do, especially in GIS where mapping and spatial data intersects with privacy and community impact. Consider location tracking apps on smartphones. Many apps track our movements throughout the day, and this data is often sold to third parties. While aggregated data can be useful for city planners and other professionals, there's a real risk that it could be used in ways people don't expect or want. Indigenous scholar DeAndre Smiles reminds us that mainstream science often focuses on data extraction without fully considering the cultural, ethical, and social context of those involved. Indigenous communities and marginalized groups have a history of data misuse in the name of research, which makes transparency and respect essential in today's data practices. This tension between technology's potential and ethical boundaries was apparent during COVID 19 with discussions around contact tracing. The idea was to use GPS data to track interactions and warn people of exposures. But many were uncomfortable with the idea of being constantly monitored, even if it meant to protect public health. This example shows that while technology enables new possibilities, people's comfort and consent remain essential. In GIS, especially when working with sensitive health data, it's important to think about who has access to this information and how it might impact people. In the US, HIPAA regulations protect health data privacy. But as Smiles points out, dominant practices often overlook the perspectives of those most affected. When working with spatial or health data, we should ask ourselves whose voices are included? Are the communities aware and supportive of how their data is being used? This approach respects the community's role and aligns with the ideas of data justice and data sovereignty. A classic example of the balance between what we can do and what we should do is Dr. John Snow's cholera mapping in 1854. Snow found that cholera cases clustered around a contaminated water pump, and removing this water pump likely saved lives. While his work was groundbreaking, it raises ethical questions about consent and community involvement. If Snow had informed the residents of Soho about his mapping, how would they have reacted? Would they have welcomed the study or would they have demanded more immediate actions? Indigenous communities have long used mapping to protect health and resources, track environmental changes, migration patterns, and areas of contamination. Like Snow's work, Indigenous mapping practices help communities understand the link between place and health. They also centered the community's voice and participation. Today, as we work in any community, it's essential to keep this in mind to avoid repeating patterns of extraction or oversight. Fortunately, universities and research institutions today have strong ethics protocols, meaning Snow's experiment would likely not pass IRB review without consent processes in place. With the vast amounts of data available today, we can analyze life in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. But this also means facing new ethical challenges. By considering both what we can achieve and the impacts on the people behind the data, we can create space for respectful and inclusive practices. Learning from historical examples like Snow's work and data justice perspectives from Indigenous communities, we can build transparency and trust in our work, ensuring that it benefits communities rather than inadvertently causing harm.